Remember when I did that recap where I was down $5,000 on the day and I was like, red day recap, broke the green streak? Yeah, forget about that. I just made $38,000 on the Circle IPO. So now I'm back to sitting with a nice green day. This kind of came as a little bit of a surprise to me. I wasn't actually planning on trading it, but one of the things I've been working on, of course, I'm always kind of working on it. Here's the chart of the Circle IPO, are my classes for Warrior Pro members. So one of the sections that I've been working on are recent IPOs and recent reverse splits because, well, we've just seen a bunch of recent IPOs that have given us some big moves. Of course, yesterday we had MCTR. This one, I'll just back this up. Recent IPO squeezes up. So these are recent IPOs. But I actually just yesterday made myself this sticky note of live trading archives to try to make sure I can add to the next round of when I teach my classes live. Whenever I'm teaching live, I always like to show actual trades I've taken, the live archive. So I can say, this is the setup, this is the strategy, and then this is the exact demonstration of me trading that setup. So you can kind of see for yourself how it works. And so I had on my list that I need to get more recordings of IPOs. The thing is, we haven't really had that many hyped up IPOs kind of in a while. Yeah, there's been some small cap IPOs, but nothing like that has really stood out to me. And maybe there's some that I missed because they usually do IPO kind of in the middle of the day. So I was getting some work done at my computer here, and then someone in chat said, hey, are you going to trade the Circle IPO? And I said, I wasn't planning on it, but, I was literally working on adding some of the trades from this morning to the classes, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to record it. I'll record the IPO, at least even if I don't trade it, I've got the recording of it. Well, I ended up trading it also. And I made $38,000 on it, which was fantastic. And to be honest, this is sort of my classic approach for trading an IPO. So if we went down to that section of the classes, I've got so I've got the daily, and then this one. So I'll just cut this, and then we'll just go down to that section. All right, so I'm going to scroll down here. So this is like going to be around 1,200 or something, 1,300. Let's see, this blue sky setup, SPACs, right? Oh, no, we got to go up a little further. Reverse splits, recent IPO breakout, but this is not a recent IPO. This is day one IPO. And so I'm going to drop it right in here. So some of the other ones that I have is trading the DoorDash IPO, trading Airbnb, trading Lyft, trading Snap. So I'm going to go duplicate this, and we're going to have one today for Circle plus 38,000. And I'll just add the link. I'll upload it, and then I'll have the link here, and you guys will be able to watch this. And I'll upload it for Warrior Pro members, not probably right now, but later this afternoon, and then you could watch it maybe tomorrow or over the weekend. So generally, the way I trade these IPOs, for the most part, is the same. It's pretty much the same strategy. So let's look at the chart. Okay, so when we know something is about to IPO, we'll switch back to Circle. The level 2 is blank. So we see absolutely no data. We don't see anything on the level 2. It basically looks like the stock is halted. There's nothing. The problem with IPOs is that we don't know the exact time that the IPO will begin trading. And the reason is because, well, I guess I don't exactly understand all the mechanics behind it because I'm a retail trader. I'm what they would call dumb money. So what happens is, in order to begin trading, they need to match all the buyers and all the sellers. So it's like an auction. And if they're having an imbalance, then they can't release and open it. And the problem is, in real time, people can be placing orders because they want to get in. So this was an IPO where they sold, well, so two things. Let me finish on that, and then I'll tell you the next thing, how I find these. So you don't know what time it's going to IPO. So what you end up having to do is just keep the chart up, which is a blank chart, and keep your level 2 window up, and either set a price alert that as soon as any price crosses, you get an alert, or just sit here in front of your computer. So this began trading at 12:38, which is a random time. Why not 12:17? Why not 1:17? It's just, this was the moment they were able to match 6 million shares, and that's sort of like the volume that went through on that first candle. So all the buyers and sellers agreed at a certain price and they opened it. And so now the way I find out about these IPOs, I mean, generally big IPOs are talked about. So you hear, you hear on the news and stuff like that if you watch the news or you read the news. But you can go to the NASDAQ IPO calendar. And if you go to the IPO calendar, you'll see upcoming IPOs. And usually what I check is, if there's any familiar here, and then how many shares they're selling. So initially when I pulled up Circle, it said 200 million shares right here. This is what our market data vendor was saying, 200 million shares. And so I was like, oh, I don't know about that. But then I realized that it's actually 34 million shares for the IPO and 200 million shares are the total number of shares outstanding. So in fact, it's a 34 million share IPO and it was priced at $31 a share. And of course, this has been hyped up that, a lot of big institutional traders or investors are wanting to buy into it because it's an opportunity to gain some exposure into the crypto markets, which of course have been strong. This is a stock that is a publicly traded company that is their business is in the crypto market space and stablecoin pegged to I guess fiat currency. So, or maybe other coins. So in any case, for me, when I saw that they were quoting it at $60 a share, I was on the one hand like, wow, this is going to open really high relative to the IPO price of $31 a share. So that's a bummer for the company because the company received $31 a share minus the fees from underwriters. So the underwriting bank, the way it works is the underwriting bank buys the 31 million shares from the company. They pay the company for them. And then the underwriting bank goes and resells those shares to institutional and retail trading firms. So like Thinkorswim, Charles Schwab got a block of shares that they were able to buy. And then anyone at Thinkorswim could get a percentage or, could ask to try to get shares and they would get them at 31. And maybe they would get some, maybe they wouldn't. This was one where there weren't a lot of shares outstanding in total. And so a lot of people were not able to get as many shares as they wanted. And a lot of retail trading brokers will not give you shares if you're going to sell them on day one. You have to hold them for at least 2 weeks. Otherwise, they think you're just flipping out of them and day trading them, and they don't want to give you the shares to do that. So, although you should be able to, but in any case, they don't. So what I knew was that most of those shares that were initially sold probably wouldn't be selling today. So therefore, you don't have as much selling, but you do have buying. Because, of course, now it's publicly traded, so people that didn't get shares early on take this as the first opportunity to jump in. Although, notably, at almost 3 times the IPO price, if they got in now at 90 or 88. So the risk and reward as an investor, not so solid here. However, as a day trader, this is something that I can totally work with. So basically, the way I trade this is I keep the level 2 screen up. I wait for it to begin populating, and then as soon as I see it populating, I pull it up and I'm looking for an entry near the first whole dollar or half dollar. Usually what happens is it begins trading and it's like, it kind of immediately comes up to a seller and there's sort of a big block there. Maybe it's an algorithm, I don't know. And I watch if it's like 10,000 shares for it to go to 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And as soon as that breaks, I jumped in. So in this case, I got in at $71 a share and it immediately went to 72, 73. I took half off the table and then it went up to $75 a share and got halted. It resumed. It squeezed all the way up to 88 and I took a little more profit off the table as it squeezed up. I did it, by the way, my entry was a 2,500 share block and I pressed it once, twice, 3, 4 times for 10,000 shares. So that was full position and I flipped out a half of it for like $2 a share for 10 grand almost instantly. And then the remaining 5,000 shares I was holding into the halt, resumed and added on resumption. Right here, you got a dip and then a rip, broke over 80. We squeeze up to 84, 85, 88. We halt a second time. I'm still holding now just a smaller position going into the second halt. It resumes and squeezes up. And I actually added at 100 for the break of 100. I got filled at 102. I got slippage on that order using a hotkey, and then I stopped out at 100. So I actually gave back, I peaked at 40,000 on and gave back 2,000 off the top. But I'm not complaining. It's still really solid. Now, as it pulls back here, volume sort of declines. It's still it's traded 22 million shares so far. So it's still a lot of volume, but it's declined a bit. So now it's kind of rallying back up, but to be honest, I'm not really interested in it anymore. I got my money out of it. I had a big swing today from, red back to green. So, as it turns out, preserving my consecutive day hot streak, as we had, as I had mentioned during my recap, my last red day was March 25th. So, I was prepared for today to be a red day. I knew that, I already did my recap. I sort of figured it was a red day. It was what it was, not a big deal. However, I guess two things. Number one, the last couple of trading sessions, we've had some big moves in the afternoon. So I knew that was a possibility. It's kind of been a trend these last couple of days. So Mullen, MCTR, right? So a couple of these big afternoon moves. So I thought, well, maybe, but I didn't really think so. And that's why I kind of just recorded my recap and I was like, I think I'm done. And then, I was sitting here working on the classes and getting stuff organized for the next time I teach them and everything. And then I just sort of thought, well, I should at least record this IPO because why not? And then I see how bullish it is that it's opening, first at 60 and then they said 65, 67, 68. So it tells me there's a lot of demand. So the price is going higher. And then all of a sudden it opens at 70 or whatever it was. And I see a seller at 71 and I'm like, this is exactly how I trade these. Now, had I just gotten up to grab an apple or whatever and missed it, I probably would have missed the entire trade. I'm not going to sit around for every IPO, just to try to do this. I mean, $38,000, I guess, is worth it, certainly. But the small cap IPOs can be tricky. And I've definitely had my share where I jumped in and got smoked on small cap IPOs. So it's really only the mid cap and large cap ones that for me are easier to trade. And so anyways, got a nice trade on this today. Grateful for that. Live to trade another day. I'll be back at it first thing tomorrow morning, finish off the week. And I got to put a little bit of a damper on things just to slow myself down a little bit because I just don't want to have, look, today was a close call. Yesterday was a close call. So heed the warning, hit the brakes, take your foot off the gas, slow down a little bit. And, I guess at the same time, look, Circle just made a huge move, but nonetheless, I think it's better to be safe than sorry. So going in the weekend, going to try to go easy tomorrow. And again, as you guys always know, my results aren't typical, so please manage your risk and take it slow. If you want to watch a couple other episodes that I've recently uploaded here, one on level 2 and another one on technical analysis, you guys can check those out and see if they help you in your trading. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you guys live streaming tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.